What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Movie Raised.
Netflix's own rendition of Jane Austen's Persuasion has been recently released, and it has gotten quite a mixed reaction from the general audience and Jane Austen purists. The rather quirky angle in which the movie shows about Austen's book caused an uproar in social media. This reaction will trigger a sequel movie where viewers can see more about the once single and yearning Anne and her captain, Mr. Wentworth's sweet romance despite all of the odds. Here is what we know so far. Here is the thing. The new adaptation of Persuasion is entirely different from its past adaptations or any of the adaptations of Jane Austen's work in general. It breaks the fourth wall, and while its heroine does not feel like an Austen heroine, the movie's story is told differently, and apart from what the Jane Austen's adaptations the world has come to love, Lizzie and Mr. Darcy, who have bewitched the whole world of body and soul, the Fleabag-esque way the movie was told has enraged the hundreds of Jane Austen Puritans around social media, and there's no denying that there is a vast difference between the usual Regency-themed adaptations of Austen's books and Netflix's Persuasion. Some of the reasons why Austen's enthusiasts around the internet don't like this adaptation are: the movie was not written in the first person, hence the lack of dialogues, which is unironically important for movie adaptations. And with that being in mind, the film has opted to tell rather than to show the ways Anne glances at the camera, seemingly addressing the audience and breaking the fourth wall. Despite this being a smart move to help the audience with the story, this did not satisfy some of the Austen fans. Most fans seem to prefer the grandmother way of telling her story, don't they? Another striking difference is the language that the characters use all throughout the film. Austen's Persuasion was published in 1817, hence the setting taking place in Regency. Therefore, the words used were rather dated to its era. However, Anna used a lot of unfamiliar words, especially when she was in the Regency era. Who uses words like "he's a 10", "single and thriving" in X's during the era wherein people would say "you show me how insufficient were all my pretensions to please a woman worthy of being pleased," and "my good opinion once lost is lost forever"? Certainly not Austen characters. Another difference the film has created is Anne's personality. In the book, Anne was an introvert given her status in the Regency society, a woman out of her prime. Among Austen's heroines, Anne Elliott is considered as the most introverted of them all. She is quiet and somewhat of a recluse, and because of that, her character is overlooked by readers more often than not. Dakota Johnson's Anne Elliott, however, is far from an introvert. No introvert looks straight in the camera and gives the sassiest remarks about someone, and most definitely there are no introverts that would recklessly shout at their lost love and flirt around people. The film's Anne was probably designed like this given that the book Anne is difficult to portray. However, this was not the cup of tea for most viewers and readers. There's a lot more differences between the book and film, and these differences made the critiques smash the like button. No, but really, skeptical about the film, there is a lot of disclosure on the internet about whether the movie was worth a watch or should be skipped. Because of the different path the film has taken, there is a lot, and by a lot, it literally means a lot, discourse about it. It ranges from how different Anne was in the film to the way the story was told. It is safe to say that Austen Puritans are not happy with how the film came about, and their eyes are filled with nothing but rage. Throughout the discourses you will see across the internet, the discourse about the language used in the film is one of the most talked about. Here are some of the most savage but funny reactions from Austen fans. Fans were most definitely not happy with the dialogues in the film. As we said above, the language used in the film seemed to be from an entirely different era, from the era the book was set. Again, no one in a right mind born in the Regency era says it's often said if you're a 5 in London, you're a 10 in Bath. Fans are seriously cringing with the lines in this film, and that Jane would be ashamed of it. To quote a funny tweet about it, Jane Austen, crying, shaking, throwing up in her grave after Dakota Johnson said, "Now we're worse than exes, we're friends," at Why So Pain. Apart from the hilarious tweets about the lines in the film that seemed to be out of place, there was was a bunch of tweets expressing how Dakota Johnson is not the right Anne Elliott, as she looks like a person who knows what an iPhone is. These are just among the funny reactions the film has given the internet, and there are a lot more memes the internet could feast in. This is probably due to the confusing way the script was written and delivered, given that this was the first time for an Austen adaptation. But in all honesty, apart from these funny reactions, there are also decent reactions. Some of the viewers actually enjoyed the film and was rather refreshed with how it was delivered. Suffice to say, the world is torn about this adaptation, or not, given the reactions from the viewers. With regards to the direction of the film, the producers seem to do this with intent. Despite the film straying away from the source material, a book by the Jane Austen, the producers explain their reason as to why they did. In an interview with the Los Angeles Times, the screenwriters Ron and Alice shared their intended goal was not to change the story of Austen's last book. The writers wanted to blend a contemporary feel into the Austen classic. Winslow added that she was a huge fan of Jane Austen herself. "I've loved Jane Austen my whole life, and Persuasion has always been my favorite novel." She also added that she has always related to the story and strongly skinned Anne, and there's a lot of instances in her life in which she thinks are comparable to Anne's, which is why it seems to be natural for her to give the classic a modern sensibility. On the other hand, the director of the film, the British theater director Carrie, expressed the reason why there are a lot of unique and rather quirky twists in the film. Carrie kept the period wherein the film would set alongside its historical accuracy, well, most of it, honestly. Most of the details were similar to the novel and existing adaptations, but this is how the story was told that is different and new. The dialogues were simplified to make the characters more relatable and more alive for the current viewers. Carrie noted that the goal of the vast changes they created in the film was to draw new and younger audiences who perhaps do not know anything about Jane Austen. With it, the director hoped that the younger readers would want to read the book as well as discover more about Austen's work. As they crafted the film, they were aware of the potential backlash they would get from remixing a classic novel, much more a novel written by Jane Austen. Despite the seeming contradictory route they went with for the film, the production team has expressed their adoration for Jane Austen herself. But to be fair, who does not like Jane Austen? Surely people who do not sleep with one eye open as Austen Puritans would be out there getting them. Now, for the people who are asking for a sequel for this adaptation, here's some sad news for you all. The chances are slim, given that the film has ended the movie prettily with Anne and Mr. Wentworth getting back together and getting the happy ending they deserve, and Mr. Elliott was fired. Everything seemed to end like rays of sunshine and butterflies for the characters, and even Mrs. Smith got to smash that like and subscribe button for more. Oh, but did she become wealthy? If Netflix stays on track with the source material, then there would be no Persuasion 2, but unless they create their own script, we might see more about Anne and Mr. Wentworth. We'll see you in the next video.